Good evening, good evening. Hello, hello, hello. Hope everybody had a great holiday weekend. Looks like we got a couple in the stream already. Good evening, Aaron. I'm going to hang out here for a few minutes. We'll wait till a few more people come in and then we'll get the program started. So yeah, hope everybody had a great weekend. Might be a little bit slack after the weekend. Everybody's tired and sleeping. All right. Well, yeah, 5x5. Thanks, Aaron. Yeah. Think I got this part figured out. I'm looking a little blue tonight. Let me see here. Oh, I guess it's okay. It just looks blue. Hello, Timothy Norman. Glad you're in the stream tonight. Did you get out for the holiday or did you stay home, Timothy? Based on Aaron's comment, I know he said he parked 200 campers in 3 days. Wow, that is busy, busy, busy. I was out on the highway. I went out and did a little fishing, and the water's still a little high from spring runoff. I kind of expected it to be, but I was itching to get out. So I did get out for a few minutes up on the South Fork of the Snake. But yeah, it was a nice drive. Let's leave it that way. Things are building a little bit. Viewers are starting to come in, so just a couple more minutes, and then we'll get started with tonight's episode. That's what I did, Timothy. Had a barbecue on, and had a bunch of extended friends and family over. Yeah, it was great. It's the first time I'd been around more than 2 or 3 people at a time in, well, over a year. More than a year. Because I was in Tucson when stuff started hitting the fan last year, and so I think we locked down. Gosh, I think it was middle of February. They were pretty, they were kind of on top of it. Unfortunately, they should have waited till later in the year, I guess, to do the main lockdowns, but it is what it is. It sounds like we're putting that behind us, thankfully. And for those of you that have just come in, be sure and drop us a comment over in the chat window and let us know where you're watching from. And if you like what you're seeing, that thumbs up is always greatly appreciated. I need to get over here so you can see it. Subscribe is great as well. Hit that notification bell. That way you don't miss any new episodes. I do have some new episodes coming out, but I've decided that I missed a window of opportunity, and so I'm going to save my spring maintenance and startup video probably for next spring, but I'm going to re-edit it into a general maintenance video that should release here probably within the next couple weeks. Maybe, I've got something going on in 2 weeks that I'll share with you in a minute. It's kind of exciting based, for the live stream, but we're going to get things rolling. Hey, Randy, great to have you in tonight. How did your weekend go working up at your lot? Did you get your barn built, shed built? Larry McBride, hey, from Arkansas. Yeah, I saw it was raining there. The lake is up 25 feet. Yeah, that's a lot. My goodness. Yeah, that is 25 feet. Well, I'm not sure what lake you're on, but I know that the lake levels are pretty important out there. They show them on the news every night. At least I've noticed it when I've been out there. John, hello, John from Michigan. Great to have you in. I got your question. We'll address that here in a little bit. A wee bit crazy. Yeah, I resemble that. Rode my Indian home from Pigeon Forge. Wow. Yeah, that sounds like a great weekend for sure. Michigan Dave's in. Awesome. All right. Well, let's go ahead and get started. The first thing on the list tonight is that about 2 weeks ago I mentioned that I was appearing on the RVtravel.com podcast with Scott Linden. And we had a blast. It was a great interview. I've put a link in the description below if you want to go listen to the podcast. And I have graciously, Scott has accepted my invitation to come on to the live stream. He'll be here in 2 weeks on the 15th of June, right at the beginning of the stream. And you'll get to meet Scott. If you don't know who Scott is, he's been doing outdoors type programming for years. He's mostly on TV, but also, he's kind of like me, likes to stay busy. So he works for the RV Travel website, doing podcasts for them. He's a super great guy. We have a lot in common, and I think you're going to love meeting him. So that'll be 2 weeks from tonight on the 15th of June at around 7 to 7:05 is when we'll kick it off with him. We'll be on with Scott for 10 or 15 minutes, give you a chance to ask him questions, get to know him. He's a super guy. I think you'll really enjoy it. So invite you to be sure and tune in 2 weeks from tonight and check that out. And also, again, if you want to go over and check out the RV Travel podcast, I do have a link in the description below to the podcast. You don't need any special software or anything to listen to it. Just click on the link, and it'll bring you into a window that allows you to just listen to it straight up. So it's definitely, I think it was fun. We had a good time. I'll go back and check comments here. 4-Ways Travel, 104 degrees in Las Vegas. Yeah, up here in Pocatello, they're talking about 96 on Thursday. And that is about 20 degrees above average for this time of year for up here. So, yeah, 104 is toasty. It's probably going to get hotter, though. Randy comes back, sheds up, and roofed. Excellent. Mid-American will be out on Thursday to run power. Wow, making good progress. That's awesome. Okay, so we had a couple of questions come in over the week that I thought were pretty interesting. I'm going to start with one that came in on my website. Let me flip around over here and get you up onto that so you can follow along with me as we chat about it. And let me remove this over here. So Bill Lindsay asks, I bought a 2021 Cyclone fifth wheel on the 3rd of April. I live in the RV part-time because of work. I'm here approximately 10 to 12 days a month by myself. I noticed the black tank was about half a month later, so I scheduled a portable toilet company to come out and empty the black tank. When I returned a few days later, the reading on the tank was the same. Could I have these buildups you are talking about so soon? Answer, yes. The RV is brand new, and that was the first tank service. It is larger. It is a larger tank than I'm used to. So thinking I didn't add enough water with the chemicals that I should have thoughts. Yes, I have. I always have thoughts. Lots of thoughts. Let me jump over here. Okay, Bill. So, excuse me. Here's what I'm thinking. You do not want to leave that water in the tank while you're gone. It's okay to run 10, 12 days. If those are concurrent days, 10 to 12 days in a row, should be no problem. But you don't want to leave that water, especially in the black tank, if you're not going to be there. I would recommend that if you can work it out, that you have that tank pumped just before you leave. And before you leave, or before it's pumped, fill it clear full. Make sure that tank is completely full. And what's happened probably is that water is set in the tank, and those sensors are pretty sensitive. That's kind of funny. But anyway, those sensors will get plugged up with paper, poo, other materials, and what happens is that the sensor doesn't dry out, so it thinks that the tank is half full. So you want to get that tank empty before you leave that trailer or go back to it. So you want to leave that tank empty if at all possible. As usual, 2 to 3 gallons of water to start with the borax. In your particular case, Bill, because you've got the sensors not working, I'd recommend that you use the borax, a half a cup, the Dawn, or any dish soap, any dish detergent, I should say, dish soap, whatever you want to call it, a half a cup of that, and run that in the tank for the next 3 or 4 tanks. That should help get your sensors cleaned up. So I hope that one helps. Another question that came in on from Zelda on her holding tanks, and she asks, how should I prepare my holding tanks while I'm not living in the trailer for 6 weeks this summer? My trailer is stationary and quartzite with temps well over 100. Yeah, quarts at well over 100 easy to have happen this time of the year. Excuse me. It's a 25-year-old Terry that I bought last year. The tanks were professionally cleaned after I bought it. I have been using Unique Digest but that is completely useless in the heat. I'm going to switch to your method today. Well, yes, it is completely worthless in the heat, as are all of the other tank treatments, at least the commercial ones that I'm aware of, because after a couple days, the perfume wears off. Now, the digested has some enzymes in it that help break down the solids, the poo and the paper and stuff that are in the tank, but it doesn't do anything about keeping that tank oxygenated. If you watch my BioGeo method video, the key to having your holding tank not smell is to have lots of oxygen in that tank. So when we add the borax, we're adding oxygen. You can add additional water, we're adding oxygen. So yeah, that's why it doesn't really work in the heat. I found that when you get over about 75 to 80 degrees ambient temperature daytime, that's when I had to start treating my tanks. And then anytime after that, even though it is hot in the summer, wherever you might be, if during the week it starts to smell a little bit, throw a little bit more borax in and then add a little bit more water. Because that will help keep the oxygen in the water and keep it so that it's not smelling. Now, since it sounds like you're leaving for 6 weeks, what I would recommend is that you flush the tank really well and then leave it dry and empty. With 100-degree temps over the 5-6 weeks that you're gone, leaving it with not being able to treat it, when you come back, it's really going to be smelly if you leave any kind of water, even with the borax and the detergent in it. So my recommendation would be just to flush it really well. Make sure you flush it a couple times, get it as clean as practical, like I talked about in the video. And then just leave it empty. Just leave them empty, and then as soon as you get back, start off with your 2 or 3 gallons of water, the borax, and you should be good to go. You might, again, have to treat a little bit more often in hot temperatures, but in general, I think that's going to be the best way to handle that while you're gone. So I hope that helps, Zelda, and I also saw your comment, and I'm very glad that you made it in time as well. Thank you. Let's come back over to the comments here. Randy says at his acreage he had a great signal, but at home it's buffering. I'm lucky, that in my neighborhood here they have fiber optic available, and my fiber is fast. I get gigabit connections down, 800-900 megabits up and 800-900 megabits down, which is about 100 times more than I was getting with my Verizon cell phone. So I feel lucky and spoiled. Yes, thank you, Four Ways. If you do like what you're seeing, give me that thumbs up. Always appreciate those. Timothy Norman says, BioGeo works great for me. Yeah, it's rock solid. I mean, I was on, oftentimes I'll mention other channels that I watch. And B&E and Venture Partners, they're doing a bus conversion. And you've probably heard me mention before, I'm a build nerd. I love watching these people build out their vans, their RVs, their schoolie conversions. We have a couple of the schoolie conversion folks that watch our channel occasionally and come in on the live stream from out in Tennessee. So I love interacting with them. And so I was watching a premiere of theirs, and mentioned to them about the BioGeo method video. And they went out and said, wow, it's changed the way they're doing things as well. So that's awesome. Anyway, yeah, they're great kids and a lot of fun, very high energy, and they're doing an amazing job on their bus. Jason Mills, pickup trunk capper towing travel trailer away fixed by adding weight to front bumper, equalizer, fork hitch. Yep. I thought it sounded like, Jason, that you were floating. You had too much weight on the back of that, and that would cause a lot of swaying. And so, yeah, what kind of weight did you add onto the front? About how many pounds? But, yeah, weighing the front down is going to bring that rig back so that it levels, right? Because otherwise it's going to be, here's your cab of the pickup, and the trailer, so you're going to kind of be running like this with this end floating. And yeah, that can cause a lot of it. In fact, that can cause some really dangerous situations to come up. But I'm glad it sounds like you got her sorted. Thanks, Wee Bit Crazy. Appreciate that. Zelda, you're very welcome anytime. Gene Kidd. John, I'll get to your question in a bit. He says he has a Forest River fifth wheel. I have water leaking from inside the wall behind the shower when I flush out the black water tank with the external hose hookup. The fresh water doesn't leak at all. Okay. So the black water flush out is going to be on a dedicated water line. There's probably a connection in your water bay that you hook up to. And it sounds very much like it to me that there is probably a leak in that water line. And you're probably going to have to try to get to that and pull it out and see. The way to test, well, geez, I don't know. That's going to be a tough one to even test. But that's got to be it. If it's not leaking anywhere else, it's very likely that the hose, the pipe that's feeding your black tank flusher runs somewhere near that shower up behind the wall or something like that. Also, keep in mind that on those black tank flushers, they have to have what's called a vacuum breaker. And what a vacuum breaker is that when the tank is flushing and there's water in the line, if, for example, you were to fill that tank clear full and it actually touched the flusher, it's a little spinny widget that sits in the top of the tank, and it got above that, you could potentially draw black tank water into your freshwater hose. It wouldn't get technically into your freshwater system because the two are not ever connected. It's against the law. But you could get black water into your hose, which would then contaminate your hose, which then would contaminate your freshwater system when you hook that hose back up. So two things. One, never use the freshwater hose to flush your black tank unless you know that there is a working backflow or a check valve in it. In my particular black tank system, there is a vacuum breaker that happens to be under the bathroom sink. And then there is also a one-way check valve. The screw connection on the water wall will have, if you look at it with the hose off, and this should be the same on your freshwater, there is going to be a one-way valve in there so that water can only go in, not come out. And it has to be there, especially on the fresh side. Otherwise, you would never build pressure in your freshwater system for the pump to work properly. Then on the black tank flush side, that's an extra layer of protection so that that water, if it got into the hose, into the black tank flush hose, which with the vacuum breaker that's working properly would not be possible, will stop it from getting into your water hose because those one-way valves that sit there and only allow water into the system. They don't allow it to come out. So it sounds to me like you probably have a leak in that hose in the line from the flush to the black water tank flusher. You might look and see if there is an access somewhere, because it could potentially, if they have a vacuum breaker in that line, it could be that the vacuum breaker might be leaking, or it could be, if you live in a cold climate, it might have got froze and you might just have a cracked fitting. It's rare that the hoses freeze hard enough to burst. They're PEX. They're really solid quality hoses. But what oftentimes will happen is that the actual fitting, the elbows or any of that kind of stuff will crack. And so that's where you run into trouble. So that would be my guess. I hope that helps, Gene. Sam Allen, greetings. I made it before the end of the session. Great to have you in, Sam. Thank you so much. Where are you watching from tonight, Sam? Gene Kidd, he called Forest River, and they don't have diagrams on the plumbing. Yeah, I know. That's surprising, isn't it? Now, Newmar's the same way. I have a Newmar Dutch Star. You can't get a wiring diagram for the coach or a plumbing diagram. They just don't do it. I don't know why. You would think they would in today's world of CAD. Maybe they just don't want to share it. I don't know, but they're impossible to get. However, on Class A's, and I'll tell you this, Freightliner and or Spartan, but Freightliner because I have a Freightliner chassis, drop a dime, call Freightliner. They'll send you any of the schematics, anything you want about your coach, the chassis. They'll email to you. I've gotten schematics from them. I've gotten the airline schematics from them, all kinds of stuff. And so, yeah, just reach out to Freightliner's technical support, and man, they're Johnny on the spot. Just give them your VIN, your vehicle identification number, and boom, you'll have the information back in no time. They're really good. Spartan, I understand, does the same thing. Let's see here. Tom and Sandy. Hi, I appreciate you. Oh, thank you, Tom and Sandy. Thank you for watching. Zelda. Just one more question. With the high temps and dry tank, will the seals be okay? Yes. Yeah, you're not going to be gone that long, and those seals will be just fine. You don't need to worry about them at all. Whisk Hitti, I'm not sure I'm getting that right, but welcome aboard. And I'm going to pause there and go over and answer John's question that came in. John says he has a Hydroflame furnace Model 3, and I can't get the exhaust pipe out. Don't know where to go next. Okay, John. First off, get yourself some PB Blaster. Okay? PB Blaster. I'll go find a picture of it. I get mine at Harbor Freight Tools because it seems to be like pretty, really inexpensive there. And I get the big can, and it's $4.99. Now I'm going to show you a can over here on another website that will remain nameless because I'm I'm really angry with them right now. Well, I don't think it's their fault, but these particular guys have made me mad. But what you want to use is this stuff, PB Blaster. It is a great penetrant, rust buster, breaks things loose, and then spray around the exhaust pipe. I'm assuming you're talking about a pipe-in-pipe type connection. I need to transition back to me so you can see me, because it doesn't do you any good, for me, any good to be doing all these motions when you can't see me. But I'm assuming it might be a pipe-in-a-pipe type of a situation, so I'm assuming you got the clamp loose, if there's a clamp on it. Shoot it with PB Blaster, and then let it soak for a while. And then, using a strap wrench, because you probably don't want to damage the pipe itself, or using a pipe wrench with a piece of cloth or something wrapped around the pipe. Work it carefully and slowly. Then your only other option is heat. If you have like a propane torch, heat the pipe up a lot, then let it cool off, heat it up, cool it off. If you cycle it, what happens is that cycling will open and close the metal. It changes the size of it, and it'll help break any rust that might be caught holding that pipe in, and or also heat it up and then try to pull it out, because that will cause the external pipe to expand a little bit, and that may help you get it out as well. So hopefully that helps John get that out. Okay. Let's go back to Whisk Kitty. Looks like whiskey to me. What do you recommend for adding water Boraxo in the black tank and or gray water tanks when traveling to help wash the tanks? Thanks. Okay. I use a half a cup of Boraxo. Maybe that'll make me a little less blue. 1/2 cup Boraxo. 1/2 cup of Dawn or your favorite dish soap, Palmolive Joy works just fine in the black tank. With about 1/3 of a tank of water. In the gray tank, the only difference is use 2 cups of concentrated degreaser. I'm being more generic with it because I know that Zep is not available in California. Borax is not available in Canada. So alternatives are Calgon. Aaron Jameson, who's our moderator, uses Calgon in his tank, and Calgon is an excellent substitute for borax. Or OxyClean is also an excellent substitute for borax and tends to be available all over. The difference between straight, yes, it's live. Watch that guy, Aaron. The difference between the borax, the Calgon, and the OxyClean is just the chemistry is a little bit different, but they all generate water softening capacity. They all generate oxygen, and that's what we're trying to achieve. So, hope that helps. 1/2 cup borax, 1/2 cup of your favorite dish soap in the black tank, 1/2 cup of borax, or the alternatives Calgon, OxyClean, and then 2 cups of concentrated orange cleaner, or ZEP works really well. So that's, or not ZEP, purple, simple purple concentrate is important, because remember, we're adding concentrate to 10 gallons of water to get a pretty strong solution. Then drive to your next destination, flush, and you are going to be in good shape. Jason Mills used old distribution hitch in front bumper receiver, and my huge 4 trucks, no chains. Oh, there you go. Added 200 pounds. Okay. I know that. I watched one of these overlanders, overland expedition. It's actually a family, and they have 2 overland expedition type vehicles, and they travel. Well, mostly I've been watching them when they were down in southern Utah. And he's carrying fuel and spare tires and all kinds of stuff on the front of his to keep the weight distribution about right. Sam Allen, I'm in Northeast Oregon. Hot and dry, yes. Here as much of the west. Yeah, it's hot and dry here. Currently about 82. The humidity outside, I think, was about 12% when I looked earlier. But yeah, hot and dry. Timothy Norman comments, I have had an elbow fitting crack before and replaced them with shark bites. Yeah, the shark bites are good. They're really super handy too. I know that real plumbers don't particularly care for shark bites, but for guys like you and me, they work great. Absolutely. I used shark bites in several cases. In my home renovation here, I used shark bites when I had to replace one of the outside hose bibs. And then I used a shark bite fitting when I replaced my fridge because it had an ice maker on it. Gracie Seeking Adventures, welcome, welcome, welcome. From Portland, Oregon. I love Portland. The company I used to work for had an office on I-5 down south. If you've driven that, and I'm sure you have going south, you used to go by what they called the Rose Building. And it was that building with all the roses painted on the end of it. And I loved Portland. I still love Portland. You know, I love to get over there as much as I can. So welcome. It's great to have you in, Gracie. Gene Kidd. I'll need to open the wall to get to it. Thank you for your help. I'll see if I can find the check valve. Okay. Yeah, sorry, Gene. That's, I don't know why RV manufacturers do that kind of stuff. They should leave you stuff. Newmar, and okay, so I'm a little bit fond of Newmar. Sorry. But at least they put the vacuum breaker under the bathroom sink so you could get to the cotton picking thing. I mean, really. Hi, Sue Kelly. Great to have you in. Aaron, yes, I need to remind people of that. If you see someone here you don't know, please take a moment and head over to their channel. Watch a video, leave a comment, become their friend. They might just do the same for you. So that's a great tip. John Besnick. Yeah, great. Have some good. Yeah, you should be good to go with that. If you need to, let it soak overnight or a couple days, and you should be able to get it loose. That PB Blaster is as the kids say, the bomb. Gary Boyd in, as Albert Hitchcock used to say, good evening. Gene called Forest River. They told me to have no plumbing specs because every person working the line has a different way of running the plumbing. Yeah, I would think that as a manufacturer, you would want that done the same way for consistency. And then also it stops stupid stuff like that from happening, which could get really expensive, it seems like, if you were into a warranty situation. Thank you, Aaron. Okay, Wee Bit Crazy's in Florida. Sorry. It's hot and it's always hot and muggy in Florida. I think I jumped over one. DMAT 1974. Hi, DMAT. 2018 Jayco Greyhawk 626Y here. Can you refill the RV's propane tank using a 20-pound external propane tank? Not refill, okay, because you have to have a lot more pressure than what's present in the tank. They will equalize. So if you were to get, they've got these devices. I actually have one because when I was wintering in Tucson, I refused to pay the $4 a gallon they wanted for propane. And so I actually bought one of these. I'm going to look it up here real quick and I'll share it with you. There we go. Let me flip over here to this other screen and show you what this is. Come over here. Let's do this, and get this out of the way. So this device right here is this Stanbroil propane brass T 4-port adapter. And what this allows you to do is it allows you to put an external tank in line with your tank on your RV. You can see I have one of those and I've had since 2019. They also come with a kit with hoses. This one I just, I hurry up and got it and found it. But they have one that comes with all the hoses and everything you need. What the idea behind it being is that you can take an external propane tank and hook it up in parallel with your regular propane tank on the RV. Again, you can't refill. You might get it to equalize. So you might get a little propane from a 20-pound cylinder that goes into your onboard cylinder. But you're not going to be able to fill you're not going to be able to fill from a 20-pound cylinder. There's just not enough pressure. And you don't get enough liquid either because of the way the propane tanks are built. Propane tanks provide gas, right? They provide gas. And when you go to the pump station to get propane, they're pumping liquid. And so that's why that tank will fill. Again, I'll mention that they will equalize. They'll come to about equal pressures if you have a device like the T I was showing you. Now, shameless, selfish plug. If you'd like to pick one of these up, there's a link in the description below for my Amazon store. And as an Amazon affiliate, I do make a small commission for your purchases, but you pay the same price. And your support is greatly appreciated. It really is. I thank you so much for that. Alrighty, let's see. I hope that helped. D-Matt, wee bit crazy in Florida. Sounds great. You're welcome. Super clean, yep. Not purple power, correct. Purple, it's not purple power, it's something else, but it's like simple purple is what you were looking for, not purple power. Both in purple bottles. Yeah, it's tricky. I go to that store I'm angry at right now. That's got the letters H, O, M, and E in the name. And the reason I'm angry is that in the span of a day, pressure treated 4x4 went up $7 last week in one day. And lumber prices are going down. So I think they're now gouging consumers. All right, enough political editorialism. Let's see here. Are there any RVs that have easy access to the drain tanks? No. Actually, mine isn't too bad. Some Class A's are pretty decent, easy to get in and out of. But in your travel trailers and fifth wheels, oftentimes there's a pan that's attached to the bottom of your trailer, and you have to drop that pan to get into it. And dropping that, and it's not really even, well, some of them are metal, but most of them are that honeycomb fiberboard kind of stuff. And it's a pain in the butt to take down to get into them. So, yeah, I'm unfortunately, no. The answer to your question, Steve, is there are no RVs that have easy access to the tanks. To drain them, yes. I mean, they all do. They should. DMAT74, I'm trying the borax and dish soap treatment from RV Black Tank for the first time since I watched an older video from you. Yeah, there's actually two out there on YouTube. I left the old one up for perpetuity. I haven't ever deleted any of my old videos unless they had like a copyright strike on them. And I don't get very many of those because I'm super careful. But I'll, excuse me. And I actually am in the process of updating that video to make it a little more generic and to fix a couple of little minor problems in the fact that I call it boraxo throughout the video. And the reason for that is that my grandfather ran a Chevron service station for almost 50 years, and I hung out there a lot. And one of my jobs when I was younger was to clean the bathrooms. And he had boraxo powdered hand soap. And it is stuck in my brain, and I have been recording segments for the new video, and I'm still struggling with it, but I've got this, well, I can't show you because I've got the camera on a short tether tonight, but I got this big note hanging up in front of my desk that says borax to remind me. Okay, I'm going to pause there. Hi, George. Great to have you in. Hope you're in for a few minutes here. 92 in Portland, yeah, it's going to be hot for sure. George, a.k.a. Dad, have you made it home yet? I would think you'd be back to Michigan by now. Joe Gaber, thank you so much for the BioGeo method. Tanks never smelled better. Yeah, thanks for your great feedback, Joe. Yeah, it is a winner system for sure. You're welcome, Matt, anytime. Gary Boyd. Is that the same as stay a while, propane connection, TR? People out them on when they have a place with a larger propane tank. Yeah, I think it is a stay away. I think they might also be called stay away. But yeah, it's a really simple concept, just a four-way T or a cross or whatever you want to call a four-way connection. And yeah, they're the bomb. I really enjoyed it. Oh, and by the way, you can also use that if you want to connect an external grill. So if you have an external grill that you want to connect and you've got a hose for it, you can actually use that T to connect an external grill. First-hand experience here. Home Cheapo. Yeah, that's the one, Matt. Upland Dave. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Where to get parts for a P30 chassis, 1988? Try Rock Auto. Not sponsored. I have no affiliation with Rock Auto, but I buy a lot of auto parts from them, and they're pretty good. And they have a lot of chassis parts. I was really surprised. There is another company out there that specializes in RV chassis. I can't think of their names. If we get time in just a bit, I need to get started on my presentation about the question that came in on batteries. We'll see if we can go look that up. I'm going to spin through here real quick. OxyClean is a commercial product that is used in laundry soap. You haven't seen, who's that obnoxious garbage hawker on TV that sells all of that stuff? But OxyClean is available everywhere basically. I get mine at Costco, and so it's just it's like borax, like 20 Mule Team borax or Calgon. It is a laundry additive that helps get your whites white. It's also safe to use with all colors. It's not a chlorine bleach, so you can use OxyClean on your colored clothes and stuff like that. Okay, I'm going to pause at Bonnie because I want to run over and I want to pick up the questions that I got on batteries. I forgot to note who this came from. I'm sorry. But the question goes, I have a question not related to toilet cleaning. We own a 2001 diesel RV, and we continue to have issues with the house batteries. The batteries die after the rig not being driven for a month. The house batteries were replaced in March of 2021. I can't figure out why they are dead with no power. They are new. Please give me a clue as to why this is happening. Sorry for asking a battery question on your poo segment. Hope I hear from you. I am desperate. Thank you. Alrighty. Well, could be a number of things, but the first thing is when you park that RV and you're done with it, make sure you turn the inverter off. Do not leave your inverter on because it's going to be sitting there and drawing current the whole time that you're not using it. Some batteries have battery disconnects. There'll be a large switch that you can turn, which will disconnect the battery pack. it is usually installed near your inverter if you have one. It's not as common in early 2000 RVs as it is in later 2000 RVs that have more complicated electrical systems. I know in my RV, I didn't have one until I installed it myself. And I did that when I was doing the solar panels a couple years ago. So that would be the second thing. The third thing to keep in mind, now this shouldn't be happening in just a month, but batteries lose charge even when they're sitting and there is nothing attached to them or they're not providing any current. This is true of lithiums, AGMs. All batteries have this problem in that the chemical reactions still keep grinding inside that battery. Even though it's not providing any electrons, those batteries the chemistry keeps grinding. The second thing or the third thing or whatever I want to recommend is, well, let's talk about batteries in general for just a minute. I have just a couple minutes, so I think I'll spin through this because I do have these ready. When you're charging your batteries, they'll go into something called the bulk charge cycle. I'm showing you a picture of one here, an example. And so what you're seeing here is obviously there's a battery on the left, and I've trickily colored the battery electrolyte, which is looking a little bit yellowish right now, and it's headed towards green. But it'll go through the bulk charge cycle, and what happens when it's bulk charging is it sends tons of current to the battery because it wants to get that voltage up to where it can move into what's called the absorption cycle. So what happens is that charger will turn on and it will charge that battery as fast as it can with as much current as it can until it gets to the point where the voltage in the battery gets to what they call the absorption voltage. So for sake of discussion, when you're in your bulk charge, you get about 30% of the battery's electrons restored in bulk. Then you move into the absorption charge cycle, which I'm sharing with you here. Again, the battery continues to charge, but in the particular case, if you look at the amp meter, you might remember when we were bulk charging, the amp meter at the bottom, when we were bulk charging, you'll see the amp meter is going up and it reaches 125 amps. That's the maximum capacity of the inverter I'm showing you here. It can only provide 125 amps. Then once you reach that peak of 125 amps and the battery continues to absorb electrons, the amperage continues to drop, and it will drop and continue to drop. And you'll notice in the picture there, you see the little bubbles. The battery will start to outgas a little bit. In other words, it's going to start gassing hydrogen sulfide. It's the natural reaction of the battery being charged. Once you reach a point where the current going into the battery, it gets down around 6 amps, 4 to 6. Then you move into what's known as the float cycle, the float charge cycle. And in float, it is doing exactly what it says. It floats back and forth. It just kind of keeps that battery at the optimal charge point. So, maintenance-wise, it's important to keep an eye on the water levels in those house batteries. Even though they were put in March, if they had been chronically overcharged, they could be really low on water, which will reduce the amount of electricity that they can store. It also can damage those batteries, and as you know, batteries are expensive, on the order of $100 a piece for lead acid or AGMs, maybe $150 a piece depending upon the battery. So you want to use distilled water only when you're filling those batteries. Distilled water. Do not use tap water or anything else. Use distilled because tap water will damage those batteries. And make sure that they're topped off. If they continue to die, then you've got sneak current. And what sneak current is that even though you have your inverter turned off, there are other things in your RV that run on that 12-volt current coming from your batteries. I know in my RV, I have a switcher system with a booster for the antenna and that all runs on 12 volt. There are a number of other things that run on 12 volt. And although they only draw a very small amount of current, over a month, they can draw the batteries down. If you have a lot of that, I would be concerned because, I've gone, I know, for a month with not turning my battery disconnect off, and my batteries haven't drained that far. The last caution I want to make is never draw those batteries below 50% capacity, or about 11.8 to 12 volts, because that can damage them as well. That will shorten their life. So anyway, check that your inverter is turned off. If you have a battery disconnect switch, turn it off. Make sure the batteries are disconnected. Make sure you are maintaining your batteries correctly, keeping them topped off with water, distilled water, and look for sneak currents. There may be devices in your RV that, even though you're not plugged in, even though your inverter's not turned on, if it has a little red LED, it is using current from your batteries. If you're not comfortable doing it yourself, it's fairly inexpensive to install a battery disconnect. They go on the negative side of the system, and your favorite RV repair shop should be able to install one for you pretty readily, and that might help keep your batteries from dying while it's in storage. So I hope that helps. George says Gary, back up, Bonnie. Okay, hi, Bonnie Raven. Welcome to the chat. Well, I'm thinking about it. If you're in the chat and you want to drop us a comment and let us know where you're watching from, that would be greatly appreciated. Also, those thumbs up are always welcomed. It helps me rank these videos up on YouTube, and that helps as well. Bonnie would like to put a ladder on her 94 fifth wheel. I have an aluminum frame, so where are the studs, or how do I attach it? Any help would be greatly appreciated. Thanks. Okay, so yeah, you can attach it. The studs typically are going to be on 16-inch centers, so you can start from measuring from an edge and then come out 16 inches like on a normal framed house, and you should be able to find your studs that way. You can use a stud finder. They work as well, and they're fairly inexpensive to help find your studs. Make sure that when you hook it to the roof, you use lap sealant to seal that up. There's little round pads that attach to your roof, and then the pipes that come up and come over the roof mount to those pads. You want to make really sure that those are all sealed up nice with lap sealant. Okay, no silicone, lap sealant. And that's pretty much it. The ladders, they're reasonably inexpensive. I've seen ladders, as long as it's sort of like a straight ladder, for like $100. So yeah, definitely, that would be how you would find the studs. Or there's the old knock that finger. I can't really show it to you here, but you'll be able to knock on the wall, and when the knock gets less hollow, that's generally where you're on a stud. So I hope that helps. I got to scan back here and make sure I haven't missed any questions, and then we'll scan forward and pick it up. Alrighty. Gary Boyd, P30 is GM. I think it is. Yes, I believe it is. George says he got home Massachusetts Monday, 2:30 a.m. without the RV. Uh-oh. Still waiting for the hydraulic fan repairs? Wow. I lost a hydraulic fan going over El Cajon Pass in 2013. It was a really long day. I could drive about 400 or 500 feet, and then I would pull into a pull-out and have to stop and let the rig cool off. It would go into limp mode at 250, so I was trying to keep it under 250. But yeah, I got over, and then it was a $2,000 repair job when I got down to El Cajon, is actually where I was staying, but in the San Diego area. So wow, they didn't get that fixed. That's a drag. Upland Dave, Gary Boyd, it is an 88, and most dealers don't because it's over 30 years old. Yeah. Yeah, that's, that you guys are dead on, Gary and Upland Dave. I think you'll find them that Rock Auto has a pretty good supply of it. And then I also have, don't let me forget, but there is a specialty company that does nothing but RV chassis parts. And it's just not coming to me. Randy comments, pressure treated lumber is in short supply right now. Yeah, the builders are having trouble getting it to start the projects. Yeah, I saw that the new housing starts had kind of fallen off because of the high lumber costs. Okay, yeah, so extend to stay. I think that's right, Aaron. George, a.k.a. Dad, in complex RVs, there are lots of hidden draws. Yeah, that's true, George. He's responding to the comment on sneak current and it drawing down batteries. Cake Gene, thanks for coming in. Great to have you in tonight from Toledo, Ohio. Appreciate it. Sam Allen, speaking of electrical systems, my 2001 DSDP Zentex Freedom 458 started putting out over 130 volts and burned out LED lights on microwave AC side. SW 2021 later this week. Those are great. I have the SW 3012 in my 2004 DSDP. And yeah, it sounds like the voltage regulator failed in it. That's one of the things that'll oftentimes fail in those inverters and generators is the voltage regulator. And in the rigs as old as ours, Sam, you're probably better off replacing it rather than trying to get it repaired. Old electrical equipment, 20 years old. Although those are pretty solid units, Xantrex, they still wear out. Yeah, George, he comments, distilled water available in almost every grocery store on the planet, including Walmart. That's a good point. He says transfer the water into a stronger plastic container. The jug it comes in are pretty weak, and from jostling around they'll leak. Yeah, there sometimes will be a pain. He carries a small watering plastic can with a long spout. That's really handy because sometimes you want to be able to reach in and get into the tray, and the back battery sometimes to get to the holes you can't pour directly into them. So that sounds like a good idea. I had a funnel, and I have a little piece of clear plastic hose. But I also repaired that because I went lithium, and so I don't have to worry about that anymore. I don't have to check the water on my batteries. John Besnick, to confirm, when RV is parked in storage but plugged in, the inverter should be turned off. Yes. Unless your inverter does not charge with it turned off. The Xantrex, even though the inverter itself, the AC side of the inverter is turned off, they'll still charge. So you want to double check and make sure your charger still operates. If you're plugged in, it's not as important to turn off the inverter because you're presumably providing more power than you're using through the inverter. An inverter sitting idle will draw anywhere from 3 to 6 amps just to power itself. For that matter, if traveling and have the generator running, inverter should be off. No, you don't need to turn it off. If the generator's running, just leave it on. Everything's good because that way it'll keep charging your batteries as well. So yeah, the only time you need to turn off that make sure it's turned off, is if you're in storage, you don't have any solar or any way to charge your batteries while you're in storage. You want to turn the inverter off. The rest of the time, just leave it on. Don't even think about it. George comes back, needs a full test of the hydraulic system, waiting for a qualified mechanic to test it. We have had repetitive issues, probably the high pressure limit switch. Yeah, they're tricky, and that's not something I would repair myself either. I always, anything like that's mission critical, life safety type stuff, I just let the pros do the work. In fact, I think I have a video on my channel about that. John, no. To summarize, If you have 120 current, you shouldn't have the inverter on. No, always leave the inverter on. The only time to turn it off is when you're in storage and you don't have a way of charging the batteries while you're in storage. Hope that helps. Okay, George, going to be out of time this week. Next week, I will put that on the list. Let me make a note here so I don't forget. I will talk about my lithium install and my battery stuff next week. Sue Kelly, I've got some kind of battery baster, looks like a turkey baster. There's a little bubbles of colors in it. That works great. The water in my battery is out of plastic jugs. That's heavy duty. I've also. Okay, so all that is, Sue, is it sounds like it's probably a hygrometer, and that's a device to test how good your batteries are. The little colored balls will float when there's different amounts of specific gravity, which is a measure of how charged your batteries are. We're getting pretty deep here, so I think I better move on. But that's a great way. I have one of those too, and I have done that. I have used that to just suck up some water and squirt it into the batteries. That's a good solution as well, Sue. You're very welcome, John. Sue, yes, distilled water. Also in the radiator, yes, distilled water, particularly today's newer vehicles. You know, your old 69 Chevy, you didn't have to worry about it. You used Prestone and water. In today's vehicles with these high mileage coolants and those sorts of things, they're really susceptible to knacky water with a lot of calcium or magnesium in it, hard water. And so, yeah, you want to use distilled water. Zelda, you may not have an inverter. Do you have 110 power when you're not connected to shore power? In other words, do you have 110 power in the trailer when you don't have any utility shore power connected? If you don't, you probably don't have an inverter. In a 25-year-old Terry, you may not have an inverter. Hello, Ron. Off topic, not a problem. How's the runoff this spring in the small streams west you like to fish? They're still running high. I was out early. Early over the weekend, and Birch Creek's a little high. Of course, the big streams are all high. Blackfoot River's still a little bit high. Portneuf River's starting to come down, but it's still really muddy. 2.5 weeks, 2 weeks maybe. Things will start to look up. We didn't get a lot of snow this winter, so the runoff's not going to run too late. Did you get your RV back, Ron? He was, if you watched last week's stream, he was mentioning that his rig had been in the shop for 3 weeks over a ECU, over a control module issue. Yeah, that's a good one too, George. Most of the time, you know, I have noticed that you got to be really careful if you don't want pre-mixed anymore, because all they're selling is 50-50. I thought, you know, I changed the coolant in my pickup that I bought recently, and I thought I double checked, and I ended up with 50-50 mix and had to go get back and get regular Prestone. I was a little upset. But yeah, the 50-50 mix is the most common of what you're going to find. Alrighty. Okay, good. Alrighty. Let me check my notes and make sure that we covered everything. Looks like we're right on track. Okay, so I just want to mention again that Scott Linden is going to be joining us 2 weeks from tonight, live via Zoom. He is a renowned outdoorsman, has had syndicated television programs on for many years, and I am really excited and looking forward to chatting with Scott. So you want to be here for that. He's a great guy, super personality. We had an awesome chat. And so that'll be coming up 2 weeks from tonight. Okay, last call for alcohol. Replace the TCM and speed sensor. Okay, good to hear, Ron. Yeah, I think you're about 2 weeks before the fishing starts to improve here in the smaller streams. That going to do it? Great. Well, we're right on track. Perfect timing tonight. Thank you so much, everybody. I really do appreciate it. Again, don't forget to like the video if you do like it. Subscribe if you're not subscribed. Lots of great content still to come. Working on some RV how-to videos. I think the next one that might come out will be around fixing my my beep up. I was, well, I'll tell the story when I get around to showing you the video, but I got a mark on my RV, and I'm going to be buffing that out and showing you how to do that. It's not too bad, but I'm embarrassed. I'm blushing now from making my mark on my RV. So that's coming real soon. And then an update to my BioGeo method to make it a little bit more generic. So we're going to call it good. Thanks everybody for watching. I do appreciate it. Thank you, Michigan Dave, Don, John, Gary, Sue, George, Bonnie, everybody that was in the chat tonight that asked questions. I hope you found value in this video. If you did, give me that thumbs up. Until we get together the next time, peace. Bye-bye. Have a great night. Next week I'll be a year older, by the way. Bye-bye.